As soon as the NBA moratorium was lifted on Monday, it just seemed like Pandora's box was let out. There was a rumor here, there was a rumor there, there's a trade here, there's a trade there. It was insane. Now, I'm going to be honest, I didn't think that the trade market this year would be this crazy. I didn't see this coming. After the 2019 offseason where literally 50% of the league was switched over, I thought that was like the big storm and not much would really happen this year. However, there is one rumor going around Twitter, going around Instagram that I want to focus on in this video. A, because it's about the Boston Celtics, and B, I got a lot to say about it. But before we get into the rest of the video, shout out to the sponsors of this video, Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of inspiring classes for creative and curious people. You can explore your skills, perfect the ones that you have, and just get lost in creativity in general. One of the classes that they offer that I've actually been interested in is the class Productivity Masterclass Principles and Tools to Boost Your Productivity by Ali Abdaal. Number one, I actually watch Ali's videos on YouTube pretty regularly, so number one, I already know that these videos in this class is going to be good. But number two, I am in college. I am a computer engineering major. I have this YouTube channel to manage. I have a Twitch to manage. I have a podcast to manage on top of some really aggressive schoolwork that I have to do. In one of the videos he did for this class, he emphasized this idea that if you really wanted to do something, you will make time for it. This notion that you don't have time for this or that is just a myth. And he spent a whole class just going in depth in this myth, in this idea, and I must say that's nothing but facts. It's curated specifically for learning, meaning there are no ads, and they're always launching new premium classes so you can stay focused and follow wherever your creativity takes you, and it's less than $10 a month with an annual subscription. The first 1,000 people to go to the description and use my link will get a free trial of Skillshare's premium membership. But with that being said, thank you to Skillshare for sponsoring this video, and let's get right into it. When the Celtics signed Kemba Walker, many Boston Celtics fans were excited, and rightfully so. The Celtics just came off arguably the most disappointing regular season in franchise history, and many people pointed the blame at one Kyrie Irving due to his lack of leadership, his ball-dominant play style, his lack of defense, and being a locker room cancer. So after Kyrie decided to leave in free agency and after a couple of transactions that the Celtics made, they were in position to sign a max free agent. And they chose to use that money to sign one Kemba Walker, what many people considered a perfect replacement for Kyrie Irving, a player who, yes, may not be as talented as Kyrie individually, but gave you a lot of the same characteristics. An elite point guard who can give you 25 on any given night, has historically great handles, and was if anything worse on defense. However, what the difference was supposed to be was that Kemba Walker wasn't a team cancer. In terms of the chemistry of this team, Kemba Walker was a better fit. And as the season progressed, the way the Celtics played proved this statement right more than it did wrong. The Celtics were playing with great chemistry, everyone was getting along, Gordon Hayward was hitting his stride for the first time since he signed with the Boston Celtics, and they were in many regards looking like what we thought the Celtics would be the season prior, and finished the season with a record on pace to win 54 to 55 games. And then in the playoffs, they made it all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals and lost to the Miami Heat in 6 games. And in this playoff run, Kemba Walker specifically underperformed by a decent amount given the fact that the excuse of him having no help on offense is gone. Compared to the supporting cast he was playing with in Charlotte, now he has players around him like Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Gordon Hayward, and sometimes Marcus Smart that are offensive threats. So Kemba isn't going into these games with a target on his back and the whole defense just focusing on him. That was not the case this year. And for Kemba to shoot 42% from the field, 31% from 3 on 8 threes a game, and 82% from the line was underwhelming to say the least. And apparently that was enough for the management to reevaluate the franchise once again. As according to Talk Hoops on Twitter, Danny Ainge was throwing Kemba at every team trying to get a pick to trade for Jrue Holiday, and no one was biting. And this report to me is very, very interesting, considering the fact that I'm a Boston Celtics fan, but a Boston Celtics fan that's actually more critical of this team than I am biased. So much so to the point that people have literally accused me of just, not being a Celtics fan. Now, let me preface these statements by saying that I do believe Kemba Walker made the Boston Celtics better last season. Kemba Walker played his role very well throughout the whole season, and he just underperformed in the playoffs. However, let me take y'all back to 2019 and talk about what I said in this video right here when I talked about the Kemba Walker signing the week it happens. I thought this was an opportunity for the Celtics to finally be able to do a clean rebuild around their wings and Marcus Smart. But how does Kemba help at all in that process? I do have one scenario in my head that makes sense to me, sort of, and it's a very high risk scenario that could backfire on Danny Ainge if it doesn't work, and it could backfire big time. The Celtics might feel like the East is going to be wide open next year. The Bucks might lose a combination of Chris Middleton, Malcolm Brogdon, and or Brook Lopez. The 76ers might lose a combination of Tobias Harris and Jimmy Butler. The Raptors might lose Kawhi Leonard. Even if Kyrie and KD do end up going to the Knicks or the Nets, KD will at the very least be sidelined for the 2020 season. So the top 3 teams in the conference will be depleted, and the biggest upcoming threat in the East will be the Pacers, who are getting Victor Oladipo back. So what if the Celtics sign Kemba as a true Kyrie replacement without all the drama? Really do believe that the problem with the team was having too many shot creators, which is why they were okay with letting go of all that talent in order to sign just Kemba Walker, and in a sense are running it back, and this is their way of retooling and improving the roster with a sort of less is more approach. Again, very risky, since even with that approach and lacking any sort of rim protection right now, I would still have them as a second round exit max. And again, they could end up with a very bad contract, and it could end up in Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum walking away from the franchise in the long run because they feel misutilized. And I would much rather have them use the cap space on smaller signings and really give Jason Tatum a chance to truly lead this team and be their franchise player for the future. Ever since the beginning, I was very cautious when it came to this deal. Because although yes, Kemba was a good replacement for Kyrie, the big question at the end of the day, especially when you're talking about signing max free agents in their prime, is how much does it really move the needle? Yes, you signed a good Kyrie replacement, but could your team have been better if you utilized that money in a different way? I have been a consistent supporter since day one of just putting Marcus Smart at the 1, playing Jaylen Brown at the 2, playing Gordon Hayward at the 3, Jason Tatum at the 4, and using that money that they spent on Kemba on getting a better big than Robert Williams or Daniel Tice, and filling out the bench so they're not relying on second or third year players like Carson Edwards and Semi Ojeleye and Brad Wanamaker coming off the bench. And then the playoffs, what happened? After the first round, Marcus Smart just flat out played better than Kemba Walker, especially when you consider the defensive side of the ball, and if anything showed more leadership than any other player on the roster. In the playoffs, they had one of the worst benches in the league, and while Daniel Tice actually played much better than I thought, with everything I just brought up, really ask yourself how much better would this team have been if they just put Marcus Smart at the 1 and use that money to fill out the bench and get a big. And now here we are, and Danny Ainge is reportedly selling Kemba Walker for mere draft picks, just in order to get a guard who is not as good of a scorer as Kemba Walker, but can play make and play much better defense. I'm sorry, but if we're saying that Kemba Walker is a budget version of Kyrie for the Celtics, you can say the same thing for Marcus Smart and Drew Holiday, and Marcus Smart is already on your team and has been here for a longer period of time. But besides that point, this also brings up my second point, and that is how will this rub off on Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown? Since those two have come into this league, the Boston Celtics have traded Isaiah Thomas after pouring his heart and soul for this franchise and for this city and for this team for Kyrie Irving. And whether true or not, the fact remains that Kyrie Irving was called a team cancer and was vilified by the Boston fan base. Gordon Hayward, the player that the Celtics have been coveting for years, has also been vilified by the fan base, and he himself feels betrayed and has been in a lot of rumors lately. Heck, even before all of this, The Paul Pierce and KG trade to Brooklyn was very tough for Boston Celtics fans because some people look down on the Celtics for prioritizing their future than rewarding extreme loyalty to their franchise. And more than half a decade later, this seems like a consistent pattern. This was not just a one-time thing. And here we are with Kemba Walker, a player who, when the Celtics initially signed him, I was already concerned in how Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown were going to feel, because they might have taken this as, man, they're still not ready to give the keys to the franchise to me. However, when they did get Kemba, the chemistry did work out. Jason Tatum did flourish while playing with Kemba. Kemba was excited to join this team, and now you're just throwing him around for picks. Look, I'm not gonna lie, there are very valid arguments for almost every single move the Celtics have made the past couple of years, and how at the end of the day, it did make the Boston Celtics a better team. However, we're getting to the point where it might start to rub Jason Tatum the wrong way. It might start rubbing Jaylen Brown the wrong way. Once they get into a position where they have more control of their destination and their careers. Once they both get into a position where they have more say in where they want to play. And B, who's going to want to sign with the Boston Celtics when they treat their players like this? Mind you, before 2016, it was already a meme in the community that no one wants to play for the Celtics, that no free agent wants to go to the Celtics. But then Isaiah Thomas revitalizes the franchise. They get Gordon Hayward, they get Al Horford, they have a good franchise, they have a good GM, they have a good coach, and now all of a sudden, they start becoming an attractive destination. And while it would have been okay if they stopped after the Isaiah Thomas trade and doing moves like that, it can't continue to go like this. It just can't. And that in turn can make a ripple effect on the ceiling of this team, and the fact that the ceiling of this team is capped because of their actions, because of the actions of the management, that might make Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown unhappy in the sense that they're not winning games. And then by the end of it, they're going to want to leave. Now, I do want to remind you guys that this is just based on reports. So nothing's concrete, nothing's set in stone. But honestly, if it does come out to be true, I would not be surprised. This is something that Danny Ainge is capable of, and it is something that he will do. And now my question to Danny Ainge is, what do you do? What do you do from here? Do you go full send with Kemba Walker and break that trust with your players and future prospects? Or are you going to stay put and keep Kemba Walker, knowing for a fact that y'all might be better without him? And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the mistake that the Celtics made that might cost them their future. But with that being said, I hope y'all enjoyed this video. Switch up the format a little bit. Hopefully y'all liked it. If you did, leave a like on this video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. But with that being said, I'm out. Peace.